it's like that. Sometimes you get so angry and you have to think, is it worth it? Do I really want to die this way? You know? Because when you're young, you've got so much energy, you can put a lot of energy into that anger. And it really seems to work for you. Except when you can't sleep, and your mind is going on and on and on about whatever that person said, whatever that person did. But you can use all this energy to clean the kitchen, clean the bathroom, stay up half the night, cleaning and writing emails and doing stuff. But actually, as you get older, if you keep trying to recreate or intensify this anger, you realize it's damaging your body. Even when you're young, it's damaging your body. But as you get older, you really start to feel it. It's damaging your kidneys, your liver, your heart. It affects your brain. When you're angry, the blood pressure increases, but it's putting the pressure into areas which are going to help you to fight or to run. This is our physiological system is geared for fighting or running. So when you're angry, you've got to do one of two things according to your physiology, the system as it is, the physical system. I'm really angry, I've got to fight, or I've got to run. There is no third option according to our body. We have to make the third option. I don't fight and I don't run. Right? So that's why I said to you about getting out. Use up that energy for 20 minutes, half an hour. It's not in the sense of running away, I'm never coming back, but use up the energy, and then when you're more peaceful, calmer, come back and then deal with it in a more logical way, rather than in the emotional way. When we're emotional, when we're angry, we're exaggerating what we think happened. Right? We exaggerate the person that's hurt us into the enemy. Even we love them so much, we exaggerate them into the enemy. And then we can do very negative actions. And so what Buddha taught was two very important things. One was karma and the other was emotions. Because the emotions lead you to do negative actions. If you don't have the emotions, you wouldn't do the negative actions. Right? Without the delusions, the afflictive states of mind, even you've got billions of negative karmas, they don't appear. It's the emotions that makes the negative karma appear. The emotions are like the rain. Right? So you've got the ground, the mind, you've got the seeds. You could have countless negative seeds. You've got the seeds, you've got the ground, but the emotions are like the rain and the sun that helps the seeds to start ripening. So you've got two jobs. One is to work on your actions in everyday life, and if you can, to purify the actions from the past. The other job is to reduce the afflictive emotions, the disturbing emotions that will ripen these seeds. So we've got those two sides, two jobs to do. So like I said, the first job is wake up in the morning and at least have a positive motivation for the day. Because this is your checking system, if you like. As you're going through the day, if you said compassion is your motivator for the day, not anger, not jealousy, but compassion. When the boss is being really difficult, or when your partner is being really hard, or whatever it is, the anger starts to come. Now you check back, what was my motivation for the day? How am I living today? The time to bring in patience, tolerance, and compassion is in the difficult situation. Not in the easy situation, but it's when life is getting difficult. That's the time that you have to bring your qualities into the situation. And so you decided your quality is compassion, not something intellectual, not just something you think, oh, that would be nice, to be patient, to be calm. Yes, that would be very nice. But then in the situation, you decide to be angry. In the situation when it's very difficult, you have to bring in that decision, I must be patient, I must be tolerant, I must be compassionate. That's when you have to bring your experience to the situation. I'll tell you something personal, but don't tell anybody else. Okay? This is a secret. I don't want anybody else to know. I was in Delhi, New Delhi, many years ago. 1992. Lama Zopa asked me to go there and run the Buddhist center we have in Delhi. And I got really sick. And I don't particularly like going to hospital, and so I got really sick, and I went to the doctor, and he said to me, you have to go to hospital and you have to have a cystoscopy. This is a tube put inside you to see what's wrong with you. And I said, oh, I don't think so. The procrastination comes in really useful. I don't think so. I'll wait. So I waited a day, 2 days. I realized it doesn't make it easier. It makes it harder, right? So I'm thinking about I have to go into an operating theatre, anesthetic, hospital. I had to go alone. There was nobody with me in Delhi, so I had to go alone. And I'm teaching meditation, I'm teaching Buddhism, I'm running the center, running a travel agent, getting the passports for the lamas, organizing their tours. I'm so busy. I really shouldn't go to hospital. Who will run the center? So you always have good reasons to put it off, right? So I waited a day or two, and I could really feel, this is not good for me. It's making me anxious and tense. I'm going to go. So I called the doctor and I said, I want to do it tomorrow. He said, you're really sure? Yeah, absolutely. I want to do it tomorrow. So I turned up at the hospital alone, checked myself in. They take me to the room. Very nice. Air conditioned, TV. The dietitian came. What would you like for lunch, dinner? I said, really? I'm getting lunch and dinner? No, but we have to ask you. I said, I'm only here for the day. The way she was talking to me, I thought, maybe I'm in here for a month. So she asked, what do you like? Blah, 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 wrote it all down. I thought, wow, this is very nice. So then you have to put the gown on, the gown, where you're naked at the back. I don't quite understand why, but you have to put the gown on. So you put your arms through, and nobody does up the back. You're not allowed to have anything on underneath. So then they said to me, we're very sorry, but the electricity has gone off. You're going to have to walk to the operating theatre. Okay. So it's like, I'm on the second floor. So I'm walking with a nurse down and down the stairs, and then there's a reception. About 40 Indian people in the reception, and I have to walk past and then down to the operating theatre. So as I walk past, there's this naked person from the back, very white, and all the Indian people went, which didn't make me feel better. I became an object. I don't think of desire, but probably aversion, Tell you what, this white body going down the stairs. So I go down the stairs into the operating theatre, and then you have to have this anesthetic and blah, blah, blah. So before I went through all this operation, I had to go to a lady who was doing x-rays because they had to do this. They put a radioactive dye and then they have to x-ray you. So I went to this lady, very famous in Defense Colony, and her mother was French Indian. So she had on a sari, she was in her 70s, and with this French accent, but she's Indian. So I was completely fascinated, by this woman. She's sari, but very French. Hello, how are you? It's very strange. Good afternoon. So I'm sort of, because my grandmother was French, so it was really interesting, sort of listening to this lady. But she's Indian. So she said, come through this way, and it is the machine, and we are going to inject the dye. I said, oh, really? She said, oh, yes. And some people are how do you say? They are allergic. Allergic to the dye. I said, oh, but don't worry. We have the antidote. I said, oh, where is it? She said, in the other room. I said, well, I think it might be better to put it in this room. Let's not take any chances. Please, you don't worry. She was like this. Very French, don't worry about anything, So then I'm lying down, and they bring the dye and they're hooking me up and everything. And she said, so what are you doing in India so long? And I said, oh, I'm learning about Buddhism and meditation. And she said something that always stuck with me. Well, now is the time to practice. Like, the study, finished. Now you have to put it into practice, Because I'm thinking about the allergy. Am I the one in the million who's allergic? And they've got to run into the other room and find it, and then they can't find it, and where's the antidote? So I'm lying there like this. Now is the time to practice, So, isn't it? In these difficult situations, now is the time to practice. Don't wait for the good time, the time to practice, but it's when the guru appears, the enemy appears, whatever it is, and you think, oh, why me? There's the sign, As soon as you think, why me? Or it's not fair, or my bad luck, why did I get to work with this person, or whatever it is, now's the time to put it into practice. Now's the time to change your mind. Now's the time to have more compassion, more love. But particularly that you don't use the situation to create more suffering. You don't use the situation to create more harm. And that's what karma is. It's responding with harm rather than with patience, rather than with tolerance. You're giving it back. Why did you get it in the first place? Why is somebody harming you? You say, oh, well, my bad luck. But for Buddhism, this is not good enough. It's not logical enough. Why you is because you did it before.
Well, you might have done it in a past life.
Yeah, but you've done it before.
Well, it's not necessarily you, though, is it?
Merely labeled you. Not you necessarily this body, but your continuum. You're responsible. If you say, well, in the future, it's not going to be me experiencing the result of this, then there's no control, right? So you're responsible for the continuum. Do you want to be happy in the future? How many people are planning for the future? Health insurance, pension plans, life insurance, all this sort of thing. We plan for the future in this life. Buddhism says, not enough. Plan for future happiness in other lives. You're responsible. And so, because you become responsible, you become more careful, more diligent about your actions. There's a reason to be mindful. right? It's about that continuing happiness. Instead of just hoping it's all going to be okay, we have a plan. We're making a definite plan. Okay? So then, karma, karma. Oh, thank you. We have various aspects of karma, and we don't have a lot of time. I hadn't even thought I was teaching about karma. So, one thing is the certainty of karma. So Buddha taught that karma is certain, in that he taught about certain actions produce certain results. So we can think about that. The other thing is the increase of karma, that karma doesn't stay the same. In the way that you plant a seed, and then that seed starts to grow, if it has the right conditions, it can grow. So say, for instance, this huge tree outside, where did it come from? We didn't plant a massive tree. We didn't go down into the valley, find a massive tree, uproot it, and put it here. It started with a small seed. That helps you to understand how karma is growing. So you shouldn't think, oh, this is just a small action. It really doesn't matter. From both sides, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. Even the smallest positive action is incredible. You shouldn't minimize the effect. It's going to have an amazing effect in the future because it's growing. On the other hand, those small negative actions that we've done are also growing. So we'll also have a very powerful effect in the future. So what we want to do is decrease the negative actions, increase the positive actions. This is our job. And each one of us has to decide for ourselves how to do that. How much you're involved with this and how much you want to do it. Yeah? So we have the certainty of karma. Certain actions produce certain effects. The increase of karma, karma's increasing all the time. Actions not done don't bring results. So if you haven't done an action, whether negative or positive, then you can't receive the result of it. So it means there is no such thing as good luck, bad luck. If you've done the action, you will get the result, right? So actions not done don't bring results. I know this sounds strange, but Buddha was very specific when he taught. He didn't want to leave any loopholes, right? So what he's saying to you is, if something really bad happens to you, you can't say it's not your responsibility. You created it, right? So actions not done don't bring results. Then the fourth one is actions done are not wasted. Actions done are not wasted. So that means even though you're not experiencing the result of the positive action now, in the future you will. For sure, you will. So there's a certainty of karma, there's the increase of karma. Actions done don't bring results. Actions not done don't bring results. And then actions done are not wasted. Those are the four points of karma. So when you're doing positive karma, positive actions, for instance, being generous, you go down to the stupa, you give some money to somebody, you rejoice and you think it's a really good action, you're really happy that you helped the right person in the right way. This karma is going to be developing and growing all the time. So what sort of result will you get from being generous? You have to think about that. When you're giving, what is the action that would come back to you? What would happen? For instance, I'll give you a clue. How do you get to be Bill Gates? You have to think about this. Bill Gates failed college, right? Ended up in a garage tinkering with some stuff and ends up with Microsoft, a billionaire. How? Oh, just good luck, or he was in the right time, the right place. But how? He must have had incredible positive karma in order to do what he did, right? And then, not just that, he could have just kept it all to himself. But now he's giving money to India, various countries, for various programs, like polio is one of his programs. He's giving a lot of money to charities in order to benefit others. So also, to be rich and to have that mind that wants to give is unusual, right? So it's not just about giving now, it's also when you're rich, you want to have the ability to continue giving. Because that money sitting in the bank, $1 billion sitting in the bank, of what benefit is it to others? Others are having problems. Others are in difficult situations. So the resources that you have are useful because of what you can do for others. But if you just have resources and you keep it to yourself, you don't have any willingness to be generous, then where's the benefit? So this is why we train the mind in order to reduce the harmful actions, but also to increase the power of the positive actions. The ability to open up, to see the suffering, and see what you can do to alleviate the suffering. Even if it means just giving small amounts, not to get guilty, and I'm a really bad person, I really should have given something, to the point where you get very guilty, and then you give $100 to Greenpeace. And then you think, okay, now I'm back to being a good person, Not like that, but to develop the habit of giving. So actually it's better to do something on a daily basis, like 50 cents. Every single day, you give 50 cents to the Red Cross box or whatever it is, some sort of easy place. On the way to work, you give 50 cents every single day. Every day, day after day after day. It plants a very positive imprint on your mind of giving. Whereas, think of the mind that becomes more and more and more guilty, and then in the end says, oh, I must do something because I'm feeling so bad. What sort of motivation is that for giving? It's not a very healthy mind, right? It's a guilty mind. Maybe you're inflicting hatred on yourself, and so you're giving because of that, but you're not giving because of having an open heart, because of being concerned about the suffering of others. Okay, so one thing you need to think about is the certainty of karma. Which action produces suffering? Which action produces happiness? The increase of karma, how it continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. That anything that you haven't done, of course, will not bring a result. So then there is no bad luck. You created it. That means you're responsible. That means you can do something about it. You're not a victim. And I think this is very important, because when you put yourself in the victim role, you have to say, others must change. Others must do something about it. But when you say, because of karma, I must have created this situation, therefore I'm responsible, therefore I can do something about it, this makes you very powerful. You can change the situation. It may take time, but you can do something about it. If you're a victim, what can you do?